Go ahead. Call the city council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Knight.
Here.
Alderman Coles. Alderman Isaac. Alderman Shockey.
Here.
Alderman Subak.
Here.
Alderman Talame.
Here.
Alderman Winger.
Here.
Alderman Wesley.
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. Quorum is present. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 5th, 2006? Moved and seconded on the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Bills, Alderman Winger.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve a list of bills dated October 19th, 2006 for $1,287,453.12.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the question? Roll call.
Alderman Coles.
Yes.
Alderman Subak.
Yes.
Alderman Knight.
Yes.
Alderman Isaac.
Yes.
Alderman Shockey.
Yes.
Alderman Winger.
Yes.
Alderman Wesley.
Yes.
Alderman Talame.
Yes.
That passes. At this point, I'd like to grant myself a little personal privilege time. I want to thank the elected officials, staff, and citizens who expressed their condolences in the loss of my mom last week. You may have offered to plant a tree, buy a brick at the memorial, made a contribution to the Wooddale Food Pantry, sent a card, or verbally expressed your condolences. It was all greatly appreciated by myself and my family. My mom lived to be 1 week shy of 96 years old, and she had a great life. Bible says, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he was old, he will not depart from it. I think what wisdom I have I got from my dad, along with my love of politics. He was always a DuPage Republican, and in my early years, I was a very liberal Democrat. In fact, I was on McGovern for president campaign staff. Yes. Later on, as he would tell you, I saw the light. But I think it was from my mom that I learned my compassion, my desire for public service. She was always active in the community and church, teaching Sunday school, working on Women's Missionary Society, taking care of the neighborhood kids. And she had a great sense of humor. And in a sense, both my parents live on in myself and my brothers and sisters because of the values that they taught us. And in that spirit, I rededicate myself to service to the community for whatever time I have left in their name. And again, I thank you for expressing your sympathy. It was greatly appreciated. Do any citizens wish to address the City Council this evening? If so, if you go to the podium and give us your name and address.
I'm sorry, George, you need to raise your hand to be recognized by the mayor.
No, that's fine. Go right ahead. Yes, sir.
Hello. My name is George Montesantos with Gem Building Contractors. We're the builders for the subdivision Park Place of Wooddale right around the corner, not the developers, but the builders. We would like to bring forth for committee the opportunity to open up the blockade at the end of Timber Court, connecting Florina Court with Timber Court.
That is something that probably should go back to committee. Does that fall under Building and Zoning or Public Works or Public
think it
Works
should-
Committee?
Building zoning.
Yeah, I think the blockade got put in at Building and Zoning, should probably go back to Building and Zoning.
Okay, Alderman Knight, we add that to your agenda. That would be the second Thursday next month.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Yes, sir.
This is the sewer system on Oakwood Drive again. After it's been repaired, water's still coming back up. This is the day that you pulled up and you asked me what I was out
Sir,
there taking pictures.
if you could, because we do rebroadcast, if you could just speak from the podium, that'd be helpful. Thank you, sir.
John Komorowski, 256 Oakwood Drive. We had this problem last year. The city made an attempt to repair the sewer by replacing from 2 doors north of me down to Irving Park and dropping the pitch of it. The water that's still coming down and flooding The area where I live is coming off of the church parking lot, and it's coming off of that parking lot with such force that the actual sewer system cannot handle the flow of water. They replaced the pipe with the same size pipe that was in there. Why they didn't go with a larger pipe at that point, I have no idea. The street was already dug up. The top picture on the left is the day after the heavy storm. That's the ditch line across the street from me, and that sewer can't even handle a medium rain. It's still backing up. So I don't know what we can do about this, but basically my house is condemned because I get flooded from both sides. You know, it's running down my driveway on one side, and it's running down to my property line on the other side. That fire hydrant is at the southeast corner of my property, and you can see the amount of water that has crossed the street and is flooding that. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. I think we followed up a little bit on this. I don't know if it was with Mr. Forrest or Mr. Holman. We found that the Holy Ghost lot is not retaining the water it should. There's a breach in the, Mr. Holman, do you want to?
Dave Graff and I did go out to this area last week, and we did walk the whole Holy Ghost site as well as up and down the street. Based on our inspection of Holy Ghost, on the south side of the building, that area all sheet drains into that detention basin there. On the north side of the building, it all sheet drains into one single inlet in the parking lot. There's a very small area transitioning between the north side of the building and the south side of the building, which appears to sheet drain towards those steps. I don't know if you're familiar with the west side of their building, but they've got some steps that go down to a walkway. But that area is very small. I don't see how water can be sheet draining off Holy Ghost site going westward. It just doesn't appear that from out in the field. At the gentleman's house and up and down the street, it's a series of roadway ditches. There's no curb and gutter. And if you look up and down the street, unfortunately, a number of people have filled those ditches over the course of years. This gentleman's house, his ditch along the street is filled, and he's getting water in his front yard because his ditch along the south side of his house is filled, and there's just a very small pipe that's conveying water westwardly. If those ditches were restored, we wouldn't have the standing water in the front yard. And as far as I know, the water has never gotten to the structure. It's just been standing water in the yard. And so it's just, surface drainage on the grass. Again, I think it's an issue of restoring the drainage ditches, which clearly have been filled in over the years. And if those ditches were restored, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. As far as our storm sewer pipe, it was indeed backpitched, and we did go out and replace it. And we replaced it and installed it at a steeper slope, so that even though we replaced it with the same diameter pipe, now that it's at a steeper slope, it has a much greater capacity. Plus, we replaced it with a plastic pipe, which again increases its capacity. I don't think it's a pipe capacity issue. I think it's a drainage ditch issue. And I think it's an issue that eventually the city has to look at that area and say, do we want to put in curb and gutter, or do we want to put in a closed drainage system? Long term, I think we've made that commitment throughout the city to do that. It's just a matter of when that particular street comes up. So,
Can I say something again against that?
Yes, sir.
There's a storm sewer. This isn't runoff off of the church property. It's the storm sewer that collects all the water off the asphalt that runs alongside of 259 Oakwood that empties into the storm sewer just north of me. That's where the problem is, because the water coming off of that church parking lot in that storm sewer, it can't handle the flow of the water. That's where it's backing up into the ditch across the street. What does a ditch in front of my house have to do with channeling the water around when it's flowing across the street? If the ditch on the other side of the street could hold the water, I wouldn't have an issue with the water in front of my house. That little pipe does drain, but it can't handle all of the water coming off that parking lot.
Mr. Holman, when we do the streets efficiency study, which we're going to update next year, will we take a look at this and see if we can resolve this problem?
only with respect to the condition of the pavement. The streets efficiency study won't be looking at other items such as drainage issues or drainage ditches. The Holy Ghost site is higher than the subject property. I mean, so it's a dominant site and a subservient site. Holy Ghost is allowed to discharge their water. I mean, they have every right to discharge the water off of their site westwardly in its natural direction. And again, have the drainage ditches been established, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Let me go to Alderman Knipe first.
Okay, that's a problem from the day one. That's probably a 25-year-old problem. That they had, your house always has been a drain area going to the west during the rains and whatnot. And during that time and shortly after, it'll always flow on both sides of your house. The house that used to be to the west of you was one of the first ones in the buyouts that was removed because it constantly flooded. So what you've got there is a problem that's been around for like 20, 25 years.
Okay, what I'm saying is, I'm on the west side of the street.
I know where you're at.
The storm sewer drains on the east side of the street. If that water wasn't coming across the top of the street, I wouldn't have a problem where my home is at. Ditch line or not. Whether I had a ditch line, it would just channel it off to somebody else. The storm sewer was designed to handle storm water. Why isn't it?
Alderman Wesley?
Mr. Holmes?
Mr.
Just
Holmes?
in general terms, and I'll speak just in generality, storm sewers are designed to handle certain storms, typically up to the 10-year storm. Storms that are of higher intensity than that typically then overflow the ground. So storm sewers aren't designed to carry all the water coming to them on a typical basis.
Sir, just a minute. Alderman Wesley?
Gary, how many ditches are covered in that area now?
I don't know of a number, but I mean, there's just, if you drive up and down the street, you'll see a number of people have filled in their ditches. And unfortunately, in this case, it's the gentleman at the bottom of the hill that has the ditches filled in. That's what it makes the problem all that much more, perceptible.
And the ditches are on the city easement, am I correct, or no?
The roadway ditches would be on the city easement. The side yard ditch that would drain the water going westward would be on private property.
And now, we didn't fill those ditches in.
Not unless it occurred some point in the history, but I'm assuming no.
Well, why don't we just go back and reopen up all those ditches again, because they are on our property, on the right-of-way, and see if it solves the problem?
Well, the real big one here is the ditch that goes west, and which drains towards the house, which had gotten the buyout. That's the ditch that's really holding. It's just been filled in, and a little pipe was installed, and that pipe clearly can't handle all the flow.
That would be our property, so if we want. That would be our property, so if we wanted to increase a ditch or divert the water, we could do that?
No, that swale would be on private property between the houses.
Which property are you talking about that the city bought out on our side of the street?
I was referring to the one that Alderman Knipe was talking about, where we bought it and leveled it.
It was on Edgebrook, to the west
Okay,
of
so
you.
that's the water runoff from the creek.
No,
that's when the
no,
creek
no,
came up and
That's
over.
the water that's coming down from the church parking lot.
No, because the water that comes down off the church parking lot is landlocked in my backyard and the backyard of 246. The grade on the Edgebrook properties are higher. And an average rainfall, you can look at the top left picture, that's an average rainfall, and that storm sewer is still backing up. That's the water that's sitting in the ditch across the street from me. So it's not even handling an average rainfall. There's so much asphalt from the church parking lot. You have the church parking lot, you have the post office, you have the bar at the end of the block. They're all draining into the same sewer system. So that's where it is. Okay, it may be a 15-inch pipe, but if you've got a 12-inch pipe coming off with a 4 or 5 foot drop, that's picking up speed. That 15-inch pipe cannot handle that water coming down. I'm not an engineer, but they don't add up. You've got three different drains emptying into this system. And if they're all at capacity, the 15-inch pipe isn't gonna handle that capacity.
I think what I'm going to do on this is, Gary, ask if you would prepare a report on this for our review, if you'd add that to Public Works agenda second Thursday of next month, and if you'd also provide the resident with a copy of your report once you write it up.
Sure.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I live next door, 260 Oakwood. I live next door to John. And since they've completed the work, I can't really say that there's been any change or any improvement. what compounds my problem is that I have a basement, and whereas John has a crawl space. And what I get at least, is the sanitary backing up under extreme pressure. So what happens is the runoff from the church and the post office, the parking lots drain, they overflow the capacity of the catch basin and then flow over into the sanitary. So what happens in my basement is I have sewer water coming in. And even though I have installed a manual shutoff, it's under so much pressure that sewer water is spraying all over my basement because it isn't designed to withstand that much pressure. So as it stands right now, the work that's been complete hasn't changed anything. The last 2 rains that we've had since the work has been complete, I'm getting sewer water in my basement every time it rains.
Sir, if you'll give us your name, because the clerk didn't catch it, we'll give you a copy of the report too, and we'll also talk about this second Thursday next month. Just a minute, Alderman Talmy. What was the name?
It's Terry Cassiopo,
Thank you, sir.
CACIO, PPO, 260 Oakwood Drive.
Thank you. Alderman Talmy.
Yeah, I just want to say, Gary, with what you're going to write up, could you look at what possibly could be a solution to this problem? I mean, if I understood correct, that the sewer that is on the school property, it's going into their storm sewer, and then that's pipe from that sewer runs to the west and comes out onto Oakwood. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct.
Okay. If that's the case, then should we have an inlet or something at that location to catch it? I mean, similar to what they had to do over on Grove with that, by Timber Court, by the new street over there.
Okay.
You know, where they had to set that up so that all that flow goes in there, so they didn't have that overrun. I mean, could you look at solutions to the problem as well and put that in your report so that when we do sit down and we do discuss it, we have some ideas on what we can do to fix the problem? Because ultimately, that's what we want to do, is fix the problem.
Alderman Subak.
As well as Gary, when you look at that, if there's any private swales that we can install with permission, because I know in the first ward, when we've had some problems over by Edgewood, or Edgewood, we installed a private swale between 2 houses, and they consented to it, and it helped the problem. So if you identify an area, we could at least at committee say that's one we want to go after to do in the future.
Thank you, gentlemen. Anyone else wish to address it? Yes, sir. Mr. Sy.
Good evening. My name is Roy Sy, 392 North Cedar. I'm a member of the zoning board, and on your agenda tonight, we have a 7-lot subdivision over on Forest Preserve Drive. This, when this project was submitted to the zoning board, we came up with many problems with it, especially with the variations that they're requesting. One of the items is the density. It's a 7-lot density. They're going to put the mini mansions on there, and we as a committee, we felt that the density was too high. Another problem we have over in that area is it's a flood-prone area. We asked the developer if he's going to put some storm sewers around the building to collect the water, and his engineer says, oh no, we're just going to put the swales in there. Well, swales do not work in Wooddale. They work for a year, 2 years at the most, and they get filled in. Now, you've already heard the discussions going on in town here about the swales. Another variation they were looking for is to put a substandard street in, the width in the street and the cul-de-sac. Now, I sat down with the fire department this afternoon, and being that there's going to be 2-story homes, maybe homes up to 30 feet, you're going to have an aerial ladder in there. An aerial ladder, when they set the outriggers out, is going to be 18 feet. and naturally, you're not gonna be right next to the curb. So to shrink the radius of the cul-de-sac, it's defeating the purpose of trying to get your aerial equipment in there, and because the aerial equipment is not articulating. It's a solid body, there's no way it can bend in the middle. With the flood problem, the engineer says, well, there's, they had a problem with the sewers and the storm sewers, and, we just didn't buy that, And when people come in for a variation, there's usually a hardship. And the only hardship that I can see, this is my personal opinion, this fellow, if he doesn't put the 7 houses in there, he's not gonna make as much money as he'd like to. And I hope you people really, really consider the problem, especially the flooding problem, because whatever goes in there is gonna
Mr.
affect
Sy,
the people
I
up.
think I better cut you off before you go too far.
Okay.
Because I understand the developer's coming back in a revised plan. It's going to end up going back to your committee.
Oh, okay.
So before you state your opinions too far,
Oh, okay.
I think you're going to be getting a reduced density plan.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to address the city council? Hearing none, I do have a written communique from United Airlines. Dear Mayor Johnson, this letter will serve as notice as required by the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. We continue to review our business and make the necessary changes to ensure our business processes are the most cost efficient. As a result of such changes, we have made the decision to reduce our workforce. This reduction will include certain employees working at the following location: in Chancery Park, 1501 Middle Road, Wooddale, Illinois. Specifically, 123 employees will be laid off from this location through May 25th, 2007. The employment reduction schedule regarding the affected number of employees and the respective layoff effective dates of this employees can be found in the attached document. We expect that these layoffs will be permanent. Any option rights for the affected employees will be governed by the applicable collective bargaining agreement and/or company policy. If you have any questions or desire additional information regarding these layoffs, please call me. Signed by Randall Rotondo, Managing Director of Human Resources for United Airlines. So not good news from United. Under Mayor's Report, anyone else wish to address the City Council before I move on?
Mr. Mayor, I got a written communique also.
Alderman Subak?
I had a request from the Fenton High School band. They are attempting to go to Southern California to play at SeaWorld and some other events, and they're looking to do a fundraiser and raise some money, and they've requested that there's about 35 kids from Wooddale that are part of the band. If we can put this on a future finance agenda to see if we have any money in the tourism fund available, I would appreciate it.
Alderman Winger, no objection? Very good. If you'll give a copy of that to the clerk, please.
I will, thank you.
Under Mayor's Report, I do have a proclamation. Whereas the cost of retirement continues to rise in the United States and the need for greater savings grows, whereas many employees may not be aware of their retirement savings options and may not be taking full advantage of their workplace deferred contribution plans to the full extent allowed by law, whereas all workers, including public and private sector employees of tax-exempt organizations and self-employed individuals can benefit from increased awareness of the need to save for retirement. Now therefore, I, Kenneth B. Johnson, Mayor of the City of Wooddale, on behalf of the citizens of Wooddale and surrounding cities, do declare the week of October 22nd through 28th, 2006 to be National Save for Retirement Week in Wooddale. Also under Mayor's Report, I want to remind everybody we will be doing the Veterans Breakfast once again in combination with the Wooddale Park District and the City of Wooddale. This is a great event. It will be November 11th at Salt Creek Country Club. Itasca Bank, once again, will be underwriting the costs of the event. It's open to any veteran and their families. So they can bring, the veteran can bring as many guests as they want. It's expected to start at 8:30 and run till 10 o'clock at the Salt Creek Country Club, and thereafter at 11 o'clock, 8:30 to 10:30. And thereafter, we'll be gathering at the memorial for the Veterans Service. And unfortunately, we will be adding 3 new names to the Veterans Memorial on that day. Once again, we're asking the aldermen to participate, assist in serving of coffee and waiting on tables. Any tips you collect are your own. Alderman Coles. Thank you, sir. Very good. 8:30 in the morning, November 11th. I think he just volunteered. One item I was throwing out to the manager, I have listed to or seen on TV his tape with Maggie probably 100 times by now. And it might be appropriate if we went to phase 2, which I was thinking would be Gary and Frank talking about if the referendum passes, what projects we would do, what roads might get done, what a 50-year-old sewer pipe looks like or water pipe that's in the ground, and what the benefits would be of the residents voting on it. Any thoughts? Would that be Alderman Winger?
I completely agree. I think it would be really helpful for our citizens to have a more detailed aspect of the projects to come. I think it will be helpful.
Gary, you're going to be a star, I think. All right, we will go ahead and make that change. Mr. Manager?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
That brings us to the consent agenda. Any objections to any items on the consent agenda? Hearing none. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. As I have a house that I own at 131 Edgebrook, which happens to be a 75-foot lot, and one of the items, item 3, directly affects me. I have an actual conflict of interest, so at this point I would give up the chair and recuse myself. Alderman Shockey.
If I may, I'd like to, without objection, take this item and put it on other business after the Public Works Committee. Can we do that? Right.
At this juncture, you just need to entertain a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda and identify those items.
So do we want it?
You'll do it at this
Leave it on.
juncture. Leave it on the consent agenda. The agenda's already been approved at this juncture,
Oh,
so you
okay.
leave it on there.
So you want me to,
At this juncture, you would entertain a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda, that being a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a first amended and restated declaration of trust, the payment of the Wooddale Tax Consortium, an ordinance amending Article 8 of the Wooddale Zoning Code and adding a new, Article 13 rather, and adding a new section 10-1.1307, creating the Oakwood Drive Edgebrook Road Residential Overlay District. And item 4, an ordinance of the City of Wooddale, DuPage County, Illinois, authorizing the sale of abandoned property in the possession of the Wooddale Police Department. And authorizing the sale of surplus property owned by the City of Wooddale, as well as a resolution supporting the City of Wooddale Administrative Directive 05-08 and all appendices regarding the use of email communications for the mayor and members of the City Council and other elected officials in the City of Wooddale electronic email retention policy. And the final item being an authorization for the city manager and the city attorney to negotiate with a retail electric supplier to obtain the best possible electric supply contract for the city.
do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. I think we need a roll call, please.
Alderman Coles?
Yes.
Alderman Subak?
Yes.
Alderman Knight?
Yes.
Alderman Heisig? Yes. Alderman Shockey?
Yes.
Alderman Winger?
Yes.
Alderman Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Talman?
Yes.
Thank you.
That brings us to Community and Economic Development, Alderman Talmy.
No report?
Finance Administration, Alderman Winger.
No report.
Public Health, Safety, and Judiciary, Alderman Pizak.
No report.
Planning, Zoning, and Building, Alderman Knight.
Okay, first item is report and recommendation, case number 06SU9, Genuine Parts Company doing business as Napa Auto Parts, 372 West Irving Park Road. Special use permit request with lot consolidation. I understand that the petitioners would like to redo their presentation, redo their, and I would like to table this then to the next committee meeting in November.
First committee meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is report and recommendation, case number 06Z10, JD Land Development LLC, 480 Forest Preserve Drive, rezoning from R1 to R3, single-family resident district with 7-lot subdivision. I understand the petitioners have changed their presentation, and there again, I'd like to table this one to the next committee meeting or the committee meeting in November.
Council advises me that there's property to table this back to ZBA.
Okay, then we'll
I have a
table
question
that.
on that one.
Let me see if there's a second first, then I'll entertain your question. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Subak.
My understanding would have to go back to the ZBA if they're increasing the density or making significant changes. They're talking about, what I've heard is actually decreasing the density and maybe eliminating, I think unfortunately the chairman from the zoning board, they weren't looking for a variance. The variance was on the right-of-way as well as the turning radius. Those were the only variances that were requested. If they're going to eliminate those and maybe change the plan with respect to installing storm sewers, those were the concerns that were raised here. Why would we have the developer go back to the zoning board? It seems like that's an awful long delay and maybe even cruel and unusual punishment. You know, they're not increasing the density, they're actually decreasing the density.
Mr. Bond.
The reason the matter would need to go back to ZBA is if there is a substantial change in the plan. And without having the plan, I don't know if you can make that determination. If you'd like, you can table it to committee, and if at the committee, once the revised plan is submitted, if the determination is made that the plan is substantially different than that which the ZBA had an opportunity to review, then you can make that determination at that time if you're so inclined.
Okay, I thought they actually had the revised plan. If they don't have the revised plan, they could probably go to the zoning board first before they get back to us, so.
Has it been submitted to Mr. Forrest as of yet? My understanding was just submitted today. I think on the advice of attorney, it does need to go back to ZBA.